Meet Carolyn Haeler, the founder and CEO of Mightylicious Gluten-Free, a nationally distributed brand of gluten-free cookies, flour blends, and brownie mixes now available in the whole United States. Before all this, Carolyn worked in corporate finance. Then in 2012, she was diagnosed with celiac disease. After years of disappointing gluten-free options, she spent $10 on a holiday cookie that completely crumbled after one bite. That frustration became the catalyst for everything. She taught herself the complex chemistry of gluten-free baking from her small New York City kitchen, developing a proprietary flour blend that mimics wheat flour's baking properties. She became the first female LGBTQ+ founder to raise $5 million on Republic.co. Carolyn, you started a business that went nationwide, starting with the frustration. Can you roll back the time to that moment?
Well, so at the end of 2011, I was 31 years old, and I had been living a gluten-full life up until that point. I love pasta. I love bread. I love all the things, cake, cupcakes, cookies, all the things that sort of make life worth living. I'd recently graduated from business school. I'd moved to Manhattan, and I'd started a new job. So it was a very stressful time. That's a lot of change. It was a new job and a new career in a new field. So it was just a lot of change. And I started getting some mild indigestion. It wasn't anything that I was too concerned about, but it was annoying enough that I was talking to my doctor about it. Over the course of 9 months, eventually my immune system started to fail. My hair was falling out. My skin had turned gray. I had horrible, my stomach was distended. It was so bloated and painful. I had body aches and joint aches, and I just felt horrible all the time, nauseous, fatigued, achy. And at one point, we tested for everything. We'd done elimination diets. We tested my blood for celiac, for dairy, for all the things that you can test for. I did elimination diets, and my doctor looked at me and he goes, maybe you have HIV. And I was like, what? Like, that's how sick I was, and how many options we'd sort of gone through to sort of figure out what was wrong with me. Fortunately for me, we had scheduled, because I had such gastrointestinal discomfort and swelling, a colonoscopy and endoscopy, and they did that, and they found the antibodies for celiac disease. So I actually create antibodies that attack my colon. So they were able to find that. And that is what celiac disease is, an autoimmune disease. And I create antibodies that attack my colon. Your colon is how you absorb nutrition, which is why I was turning gray and my hair was falling out, was because even though I was eating things that were gluten-free, in addition to things that had gluten, there's such damage done to my body that I couldn't properly absorb nutrition. So celiac disease is something that would kill me and rather quickly, given how rapidly my health deteriorated. It is also something that you can be born with, but it's also something that that can just happen, at any point in life. So I got the diagnosis, and the doctor literally came out and handed me a piece of paper and said, you have celiac disease, and sort of listed things I could eat and things I couldn't eat. And they're like, enjoy your life. It was a relief. As you can imagine, that I was like, compared to what they've been discussing previously. And it was a couple days before Thanksgiving when I got the diagnosis. So I was like, you know what? I'm not eating anything that isn't like picked off a tree or a bush or any kind of meat, because I'd done all the elimination diets that like the meat can't be processed. I have to be like, see where the cut was. And within like 24 hours, my skin turned pink again. Like, it was immediate when I was just eating literal whole foods, and nothing processed in my diet. It was unbelievable. Obviously, it took a lot of years for my body to fully recover from all the damage that I'd done. And frankly, when a lot of the damage will never be recoverable. Like, my colon will never be the same as it was prior to the celiac disease. But it was something that I saw immediate, like just being gluten-free, there was immediate turnaround. And so I sort of embarked, I was like, this is not a big deal, we've been, I feel like since the late 90s, we've been in this like low carb craze, and everyone's trying to be low carb. So I already didn't eat a ton of pasta or bread or anything like that. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be manageable. What I didn't realize is that gluten is in everything. So when we think about gluten, you think about like, okay, beer, bread, baked goods, things like that, pasta. Those are the big categories that you think of. But gluten is used as a color, as a filler, and as a preservative. So it's in things like imitation crab. It's in soy sauce. It's also a colorant. So it could be in turkey and ham as a preservative. It can be a filler in spices. So you could have, like, I've been gluten before by cinnamon. I would sprinkle cinnamon on my
Whoa.
coffee in the morning, which you imagine is just a very small amount of cinnamon, but there are trace amounts of gluten in there. And I react to trace amounts of gluten in about 180 seconds because it could be intentionally placed into spices as just a filler to like reduce the cost of the product. It could also just be cross contamination because the mill probably manufactures a lot of different things, and some things that go through the spice mill might have gluten in them intentionally, and then it doesn't get fully cleaned, and then it gets cross contaminated. So there's a lot of reasons why gluten can add up, whether it's intentional or accidental. And then it's also as a colorant, which is where you find it most commonly. It's in caramel color. And if you look at Pepsi, Coca-Cola, even ginger ale, they all have caramel color. Lots of baked goods, whether it's a cracker or a cookie, will have caramel color in it. Because when you're baking, I know this now from manufacturing, when you're baking ready to eat products, you bake them really at a really low temperature for a very long time to really reduce the amount of water activity in that product. You want them to be really dry in most instances. And so you don't get the same color caramelization that the consumer wants to see to know that it tastes good. Like when you see a really rich brown chocolate chip cookie, it looks like it tastes better than a pale cookie. So they add caramel color into the process so that you get that dark brown color. Caramel color is in almost everything, and it's made from gluten. So when you think about being gluten-free, many things like, why would you think that soda has gluten in it? Most sodas do. Why would you think that a rice cracker has gluten in it? It's made of rice. They probably put gluten in it to make it brown. There's all of these things that you no longer have access to. And that is very limiting. So food is more than just physical. Obviously, food is really important to me. It's how I have to keep my body healthy and how I had to heal my body. But there's a really important psychological, emotional aspect to food as well. When you limit food, your taste buds get like overburdened by certain flavors and they can get fatigued and tired. Emotionally, you can get fatigued from eating the same types of foods over and over again. Variety is really important to us. And then also there's like ritual throughout our day. Like there's ritual and convenience. I work in Manhattan. I was working in finance. I was getting up at 5 a.m. and being able to do things like grab a bagel, make a sandwich, grab a muffin. Those are all really important to people who don't have a lunch break. I was a stock trader. Not only did we not have a lunch break, but we couldn't leave our desks during market hours. So convenience is a really important part of sort of managing our days, especially in the American lifestyle where we don't have siestas like some European countries do. And there was the physical aspect of it, and then there was the psychological, emotional aspect of it. Food is also very ceremonial. And when you think about ceremonial foods, it's easy to think about like birthday cakes, champagne at weddings, things like that. But even just your coffee break at 3 p.m. Is a really important ceremony within your day to help you manage your day. And that became a lot trickier. So I no longer, even though I've had celiac disease now for well over a decade, I don't get to take anything for granted. I don't get to eating out. I can't take for granted because most kitchens are going to have cross contamination. Traveling, I can't take for granted because it's really hard for me to stay at hotels because they have limited kitchen and they often don't have a lot of food options. So I prefer to stay at Airbnbs because I have more control over the food because they will have a kitchen and a refrigerator. And there's all these logistical things that pop up. Like I always have a banana in my purse because who knows when I'm going to be hungry and I probably can't grab something, really quickly. So I always have like an apple or banana in my purse just in case. And they're not big things, but when it accumulates throughout your day and throughout your year and throughout your life, these start to feel like bigger burdens than sort of being able to take each and every little action for granted. I was literally having a bad day. So I'd been living like this for 5 years and I had moved to a new job. I didn't like it. It was cold in New York and like Drury. And I was just having a bad day and a bad week. And I'd been shopping all day and I was hungry. And there was standing in line to check out and there was all gluten-free cookies in front of me. And so I was like, oh, amazing, a cookie. That's going to make me happy. And so I like opened the package and it was beautiful. And I said artisanal. And so I take a bite of this cookie and it wasn't even edible. And another challenge with the gluten-free sort of market is there are specific gluten-free products. And it feels like, especially since I was diagnosed in 2011, there's a lot more products, but there often is a lot of differentiation between those products. A lot of people will describe gluten-free products as being bland, stale, or gritty, and they often have a weird aftertaste, which means that you don't often want to buy them again. And so I had this bad experience with this cookie, and I was like, I went to business school. I know how to bake. I love to bake. I'm going to start a gluten-free cookie company. So I did. And I was so enraged. I was like, everyone deserves a cookie. A cookie has no purpose in life other than to make you smile. It's not how you're getting significant calories. It's not how you're getting any nutrients or nutrition. Should not be a significant portion of your, daily consumption. It just has one purpose, and it's like butter. It's butter, sugar, and flour. It's just meant to make you smile. It's like your own personal birthday cake. It's a bite-sized birthday cake. It's meant to make you smile, give you a little pick-me-up, make you happy for a moment, and then you move on. And if a cookie can't do that, something is very wrong.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach, and especially when you package it like that as a cookie. But like unwrapping your story, like you had a real problem that you discover about your health. And as I mentioned, I resonate a lot with this because I was struggling, and I found out later that wheat basically it's in almost everything, like you mentioned, even mustard. Like I
Yeah,
was
it's like, why? Why is it in apple cider vinegar? Apple cider vinegar is made from apples that you let rot.
exactly, and
Like apples should be.
yeah, and it's crazy, and I can not standing like say more about the taste, the aftertaste. Like there's so many products out there that simply don't taste like the product itself. Cookie, bread,
That's what
name it.
they don't. Yes, they don't taste correct. You're like, that
Exactly.
is not. Yeah, and I can talk a little bit about that if you want to know exactly what happens. So I left my job in finance and I started baking. I lived in a studio apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I had this tiny little oven. It was like 24 inches, and my cookie tray was like the size of a toaster oven cookie tray. But I was baking all day, every day. I made tens of thousands of cookies, and they were all abysmal. What I realized was, a cookie is just butter, flour, sugar, eggs, and vanilla. There's not a lot to a cookie. You could even remove one or two of those ingredients and you still have a cookie. So it's not the most complex baked good. And it's something we've known how to make cookies for hundreds of years. There's not a tremendous amount of innovation you can make to like the existing cookie recipes, right? There's thousands of cookies that you can make. We've sort of perfected this, but no matter what I did, the cookies would be disgusting and terrible. And what I realized was there's really no replacement. I was buying ready to use gluten-free flours off the shelf and using those to make cookies and trying all sorts of different recipes. And they were horrific. They had weird textures. So they had a grittiness to them. They often had a chalkiness to them, like a clay, like chalkiness.
Mhm.
And then they had a weird, bitter, acrid aftertaste. And there's three reasons for that. Most gluten-free blends have rice flour in them. That's the base. That makes sense. Rice is abundant. It's a great grain, and it's very neutral in flavor. Then they have some ancient grains. Often they'll have garbanzo bean. Garbanzo bean is wonderful. I love chickpeas. I love Middle Eastern cuisines. Their garbanzo beans are often used in traditional baking, depending on where you're from. However, they have a really earthy, chalky texture when you bake with them. And if you're making falafel, that's no problem. But if you're making a chocolate chip cookie, that can be a problem. It depends on your palate. But then the ingredient that is added the most often is called sorghum flour. And the reason why sorghum, it's an ancient grain and it's very good for you, high in vitamins and minerals. It's very high in protein. So rice flour has 1/400th the amount of protein that wheat flour has, but sorghum flour has almost the amount of protein that wheat flour has. So it's easy to bake with. So you'll have a gluten-free flour blend that has rice in it, that often has garbanzo bean or some sort of legume, and then sorghum flour. There's three problems there. Rice flour in the US and with most places except for maybe Japan, and you can't import rice from Japan, it's too expensive, is milled for cooking, not baking. So when a flour is milled, it should be milled to like a super fine consistency, like cornstarch or wheat flour. When you put your fingers in wheat flour and you feel it, it feels silky and soft and powdery, like powdered sugar, like cornstarch. Rice flour in the US is milled to a very fine sand consistency. And so when you put your fingers in it, it feels like sand from Bermuda or some tropical place. It doesn't feel like flour. So I like to say, if it looks like sand and it feels like sand, it tastes like sand. And that's where the grittiness comes from in gluten-free baking. And then you have the garbanzo beans. Garbanzo beans are wonderful. I really like the earthy flavor of garbanzo beans, but they get sort of that chalky texture. So there's often a chalkiness if your blend has garbanzo beans, and then sorghum. So sorghum is fine with chicken piccata. It's going to be wonderful with your savory, complex dishes. It would be wonderful with a curry, anything that has a lot of salt, a lot of complexity to it. Sorghum is going to be a wonderful complement. Sorghum, when you bake it past 150 degrees, has a very bitter, acrid flavor. And when you think about what a cookie is sort of the neutral flavor of wheat, and then the saltiness from the butter, and then it has the only other flavoring is vanilla. And vanilla is from an orchid. It's this beautiful, complex, but incredibly delicate flavor. And it's wonderful. Universally, people love vanilla. It's in almost all baked goods. But if you take the acrid, bitter flavor of sorghum, that sort of tastes like a cigarette butt,
Oh wow.
and you have it compete with vanilla, loses. Vanilla is never going to win. So when you bake with flour that has the grittiness of the rice flour, the chalkiness of the garbanzo bean flour, and the acrid, bitter flavor of the sorghum flour, your baked good does not taste good. Does not matter how much butter or sugar you add to it. You're always going to, when you swallow the finished product, you are always going to have the bad mouthfeel from the grittiness and the chalkiness, and then the aftertaste in your throat, which is why people are like, oh, that doesn't taste good. It's the sorghum flour and it's the gritty rice flour. So part of the innovation that I came up with, like I didn't reinvent a chocolate chip cookie. Definitely my cookie recipe is different from like Nestle Toll House or Tate's or anything like that because the chemistry is different for baking, but it's not, it's slightly different ratios. It's not this huge brand new thing that I created. What is really different is that my flour blend. So we are rice flour based, but I work with farmers, farmers in California, and a rice mill that mills my flour to me to a spec so that it's silky and smooth like cornstarch. So there's no grittiness to it. We only use rice flour and then starches like tapioca starch and cornstarch and potato starch, which are normal ingredients in a lot of baked goods. And then to replace the protein, instead of using sorghum flour or garbanzo bean flour, we use whole milk powder. And whole milk powder is wonderful in baked goods. It improves the it increases the fat content slightly. These are like percents of like fractions of percent, but that a little addition of like whole milk powder just takes it up a notch and improves the color of your final baked good. So instead of having a baked good that's really pale and dry, you get that browning color, and then it improves the texture of the crumb of the baked good. So it's wonderful. Most bakeries, like if you get a wedding cake or a professional birthday cake, they've added whole milk powder to that cake batter to make it taste even better. So we use whole milk powder, which increases the protein. So we have a flour blend that is smooth and soft and pillowy and fluffy. There's no grittiness to it. There's no chalkiness to it because we haven't had to add garbanzo bean, and there's no weird aftertaste because we haven't added sorghum flour. So it looks, smells, and feels like wheat flour. And when you bake with it, all you taste is the baked good. It just tastes buttery and rich and sweet and beautiful. You don't have any strange aftertaste. And it wasn't until there was a lot of testing because there was no like blend recipe out there for me. So I had to like come up with what are the starches that need to go into this blend? How am I going to replace the protein? Where am I going to source my rice flour from so you can actually bake it? Once I had that, I could bake anything. So the innovation within my cookies is the flour blend that we use. And it could be used not only to make my cookies, but it could be used to make cakes. And I've made sourdough bread with it, pizza dough, breaded chicken, anything. You just use a basic recipe. I always make modifications because gluten-free is slightly different. Rice flour absorbs more. Rice flour and starches will absorb a little more water. So I'm always adding a little bit more wet wet ingredients to my recipes just to make them that much better. But it still works. Like if you just have your grandma's recipe and you use my flour blend, it just works. And so I was able to, like after months, I was able to create this flour blend, and my cookies look, taste, smell as good. Like I think my brown butter chocolate chip is the best cookie I've ever made, even though I made lots of cookies prior to be gluten-free. Like it's just a phenomenal recipe and a wonderful product.
I wish I lived in the United States to be able to taste them. When it comes to like speaking of innovation, once you had a problem, you found a solution, and you start creating these cookies. I know that you choose crowdfunding over VCs.
Mhm.
What did community give you that investor could not?
That's a great question. And, I did talk to some private investors, some angel investors, and CPG, it's really hard because you have to get to $1 million in sales before even an angel investor will talk to you. And that is a lot of capital to put when you think about margins as being between 30 and 50%, so on average 40%, to get to that level of revenue is a lot of your own capital upfront. Before you get to where anyone will even help you or is interested in getting involved. So I was sort of, getting bank loans and things. And I had a friend who was the head of marketing at a crowdfunding. She was like, you should do this. There's no downside. She was like, if you don't raise any money, you don't raise any money. You just cancel the campaign. But if you do raise money, you've got a whole chunk of cash and you get to maintain the majority ownership in your company. And you get to grow your business to the point where you can get more of a strategic partner. So crowdfunding is hard. It's not like you don't snap your fingers and get a lot of investors. I was able to leverage some relationships I had with existing sort of angels and people within that network to sort of drive my campaign. That was tremendously helpful. And what they gave me was the cash I needed to be able to get the brokers. Like until you have to, like when you are beginning, you're not making enough, you're not generating enough revenue to sort of sustain people via commission. So in order to get good brokers, in order to get into distributors, in order to really entertain retailers, you have to show that you have cash. The reason for that is the brokers aren't going to get paid if you don't have cash in the beginning because they're going to be just building your business. Your distributors don't want to work with you because you could go out of business, and that makes them look bad. So if they put you in a bunch of retailers and then you go bankrupt, that impacts their business and their relationships. And the retailers feel the same way. The retailers don't want to bring you on into their shelf, there's only so much space on the shelf. So if they're bringing you in, they're taking someone else out. And it's really hard for them to take that level of risk on a brand new company that has no cash flow because you're going to go bankrupt. And they don't want to remove a product that's selling to put you in there if you're just going to go bankrupt. And that happens to them all the time. CPG is a very difficult business. So until you really have that cash flow, it's very hard to build your business organically. So the crowdfunding really gave me the ability to get that capital. Once I had the capital, doors I've been knocking on for years suddenly just swung open. People were like, you could come work with us. It was unbelievable. Once you have capital, everyone's ready to spend it for you is how I felt. Like no one wanted to talk to me when I was like just a struggling emerging brand. But as soon as I had some capital, they were my best friends.
What money can do, right?
Yeah, but they were the doors I needed. Distributors, where I got into 2 national distributors. Once you're in the distributors, then the retailers feel more confident in you. They also have access to you. So they can say, I'm in 2 distributors. I'm in different DCs throughout the country. I'm in distribution centers in the East Coast and the middle of our country and then the West Coast. And once I'm in a distribution center, anyone who's a customer of that distributor can get my product. So now all we have to do is walk into stores and say, hey, we're at this distributor in this DC where you pull from. Our product is readily available. All you have to do is place an order. And that makes the selling process so much easier. It's still not easy. It's still a lot of hustle, and it's still something like it's the hardest part, but it certainly makes it a lot easier. Now I go to trade shows all year for my distributors, and I have a table and their customers walk by and taste my product and they're interested. All they have to do is say, I'd like to order, and I push some buttons and it's on their way. So
And
the crowdfunding is it's wonderful if you can make it happen. You get the capital and the cash you need to legitimize your company and make the partners you need feel comfortable with you. But what you're not necessarily getting that a VC or a private equity firm would offer is that expertise in the market.
yes, exactly. And when it comes to this, because you came up with a physical food product that basically there's not a lot of talk around it, right? It's for a specific niche, gluten-free niche. And there were any challenges when it comes to that? Once you had the money, once you like the doors open for you, what was the challenge between you and the distributors or the retailers in order to actually sell that product?
That's a good question. I would say that it's not like gluten-free cookies is not like a booming like it is a different like it is a niche market, but it's something that is emerging. Like more and more people are being diagnosed with celiac disease, and more millennials who are getting older now. I'm the oldest millennial, and we're no longer can we eat, the bad for you foods we were raised on, and we're all very conscious of the fact we're the only generation where organic wasn't the default. Everything prior to us, everything was organic, and then all of a sudden things weren't. So we're getting more interested in our health. Inflammation is a huge aspect of aging. I'm 44 and wow, my knees do not run the way they used to. Arthritis, there's a lot more like gluten is something that causes inflammation. So people are, even if you don't have celiac disease or aren't gluten intolerant, there is a large community out there, whether you have arthritis, or you're struggling with some sort of cancer or some other autoimmune disease, Crohn's disease, IBS, anything that affects you in that way, being gluten-free is going to benefit for you. So most of the retailers I talk to are very interested in better for you snacks, because the traditional sort of Oreos and Chips Ahoy that are inexpensive and sell really well, they're not meeting the needs of the millennial generation and Gen Z and people who are wanting something that tastes good, but is also better for you and they can feel good about putting it in their body. So that actually has been an easy sell for me. The hard sell is getting the consumer, because I'm a premium price product, to take a risk, because so many people have had a bad experience with gluten-free and they're expecting something to be gritty and bitter and have a weird aftertaste. So getting that consumer to try the product is where we really have to focus and invest and get that initial trial, so that we can get that consumer to be a repeat consumer.
And how did you manage to do that?
We do it through a variety of different strategies. So it depends on the retailer, but sampling is one of the most effective. Is when you launch at a new retailer or grocery store chain, make sure that you have a sampling program set up. And most retailers either have their own sampling program or that you can partner with, a third party company that will do the sampling for you. That's the most effective way, is to literally trial, to literally give people samples and have them taste it. We also do promotions. Like as soon as we hit the shelf with a retailer, we will do, certain percent off or buy one, get one, things to really incentivize the consumer to try it because they're taking a risk. And with inflation the way it is and people feeling really the pinch of oil prices and everything that's been going on since COVID, people are a little bit less willing to try new things. And I totally understand that. So giving them a financial incentive to do so, whether it's a coupon or a promotion or a buy one, get one, things like that, is really important when you're hitting the shelf with a new retailer. Those are the 3 or 4 different strategies that we use, whether it's a physical coupon or a digital coupon or just a coupon on the shelf. Things like that will incentivize your consumer to try it and take that risk.
Thanks for sharing. And I'd like to discuss a bit about the person behind Mightylicious. Like, how did you went from a person in finance to a basically nationwide entrepreneur? What were your challenges apart from those that you already mentioned? Like, what was really
Yeah.
like to be in the trenches and putting this
Yeah.
brand?
Yeah, so I love it. I've always been an entrepreneurial person. Like prior to graduate school, I was in consulting, and consulting is very much building relationships and selling solutions. And I was very good at the selling part from like right. I became like I sold my first project 2 years out of school, which normally it takes like 7 to 10 years before you become a project manager and you actually sold business. So something that I gravitate to. And then I went to business school and then I became a stockbroker, also a completely entrepreneurial business. Like if you don't sell, you don't make money, or completely commission based. So it is part of my personality to take risks, and I need a little bit more risk in order to feel motivated and fulfilled. I can't be in like sort of a very salary sort of no risk job. I get bored and distracted.
I
Not
feel
really.
it.
So it's certainly who I am to a certain degree. There are certain aspects about finance that I really love, but I just had become burnt out, and I needed like I bake as a way of like self therapy. And so part of me starting my business was like, I was unhappy. I didn't like my job. I felt really burnt out. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. So I was like, I want to start a company, and I've identified this problem. I live with this problem. No one knows this problem better than I do. I'm going to solve this problem, see where it goes. And I was very fortunate that it sort of launched itself. The way that I launched, like you can imagine getting to shelf is a very challenging thing. It's very tricky because in order to get it onto the shelf, you have to have a distributor. In order to have a distributor, you have to have a customer commit to you. So you're in this chicken and egg sort of circle, you go and talk to like, say, you go and talk to a major grocery store and they say, oh, well, who's your distributor? And you're like, I don't have one. They're like, oh, well, we work with UNFI. So you go to UNFI and you go, oh, I'd like to work with you. And they go, who's your customer? And I'm like, well, I'm talking to Giant. And they're like, well, once you have a contract from Giant, come talk to us, right? And you can't get the contract from Giant until you have the contract with the distributor.
Oh my.
So for emerging brands, this is the biggest hurdle that you have is sort of this distributor customer loop that you're in. But and I didn't even know this when I started. So I was making these cookies. I had created this beautiful brown butter chocolate chip recipe that was incredible. And it's something that I could replicate and make over and over again. So I lived on 72nd Street and there's a Whole Foods on 86th Street. So I was like, I learned a business school to create a prototype, get feedback on that prototype, refine the prototype, et cetera, and so on. So I was like, okay, I have this prototype I'm really proud of. I need feedback. I ordered some Tin Tai coffee bags off of Amazon, just like craft Tin Tai coffee bags. I put my cookies inside. I printed out some labels off of my printer, put it on, made it look as professional as I could, walked into Whole Foods, and I was like, I'm looking for feedback. And the girl at the information booth was like, great. Chris is in the bakery section. He's the team leader there. Go talk to Chris. And I was like, okay. And I walked up to the bakery section. There was a man standing behind the cake counter. And I was like, hi, Chris. And he was like, yeah. I was like, I'm Carolyn. I make gluten-free cookies. I'm looking for feedback. He came around. He tasted my cookies. He was like, that's the best gluten-free cookie I've ever tasted. He was like, my name is Chris. I'm the team leader here. He handed me his business card. He was like, I want you to go down to Union Square in Brooklyn. My store and those other two stores sell more gluten-free products than any other Whole Foods in Manhattan. Asked for the team leaders there. He goes, if we all email the regional team, they might bring you on to our Forager program. I don't know what any of this means. I'm like, okay. But I'm a stockbroker. I'm like, okay, good. I've got all this information. I got to go to talk to these people. So I went down to those. I took my cookies down to those stores. This was on a Thursday, and they were onboarding me to the Forager program by Monday. I was making cookies in my 24-inch oven in my studio apartment. I didn't have any insurance. I didn't have any license. You have to have licenses. You can't just start selling cookies out of your kitchen. You have to have a FDA audited commercial facility that meets all their requirements. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen before you can just sell cookies to the general public. So fortunately, it took about 6 months to onboard. On average, it takes 3 months if you're good at it, but it can take 3 to 6 months depending on your retailer. So it took me a full 6 months to get onboarded to Whole Foods. But that was my entire go-to-market strategy. I spent those 6 months like filling out the paperwork, getting them images, creating packaging that I could like sell. But then also getting my licenses, getting my insurance, finding a commercial facility that was suitable, and officially hit the shelves. This was like July of 2017, and officially hit the shelves of January 2018. I started in 3 Whole Foods in Manhattan. What's lovely about this Forager program, which I totally took for granted at the time, is that you don't need a distributor. They let me just deliver my cookies myself. So I started in 3 Whole Foods. I actually couldn't support myself like just baking cookies in my studio apartment. So I went back to being a stockbroker. So during the week, I was a stockbroker. And then on the weekends, I would go to a commercial facility in Queens, New York, and bake cookies all day for like 12 hours, both days of the weekend.
Wow.
On Monday, I had 2 teenagers who would borrow their mom's sedan and deliver my cookies to 3 Whole Foods locations in Manhattan. That grew to, by the end of 2017 or 2018, 2019, I was in 10 Whole Foods. And then within a few months, I was in 2 full regions. And that's when I started needing capital. I moved to a commercial facility over in New Jersey, which is where I still am, that manufactures millions of cookies, not for me, but like has the capacity to manufacture like millions of cookies. They were willing, they loved my product and they were willing to work with me, even though I was doing much smaller runs. They were like, they loved it and they were really passionate about it. So it was an amazing partner for me. They were willing to work with me, make smaller runs for me. And then I was able to hire a local distributor for Whole Foods. They didn't require me to go to the national distributor. And that's how I established myself, which is unbelievably lucky. Like there's so much serendipity in life. And if I hadn't walked into that Whole Foods on that day that Chris was there, because the team leader is not always behind the counter, right? None of this would have happened. Like none of it.
Indeed. And we need this, right? We need these moments in which things align and we have the breakthrough. And you did it. And look at you now. And I think, first of all, we wait for you in Europe to distribute Europe as well. But how you went from New York to, so you got the financing that you needed, and then you went national. How much time it actually took to go nationwide?
So I was able to go national as soon as I got the funding. So and the reason for that was I got the distributors. So I was using sort of local distributors up until I got the funding and was able to expand beyond Whole Foods, but it was very much limited to only retailers who were working with these small distributors. Once I got the funding, I was picked up into two national distributors and their sort of emerging brand programs. And that's when I was able to go national. Because once you're in DCs nationally, anyone can get you. And so I raised the capital. Magically, I got picked up by two national distributors. And then magically, I was picked up by a national broker who has relationships with the distributors and the customers and the grocery stores. So suddenly I'm in HEB in Texas, and I'm out in Mother's out in California. I'm in Hawaii and Alaska. Like all it just the doors are now open. It's still a tremendous hustle because you are competing for a limited amount of shelf space. But I have a very the gluten-free segment is not 100% saturated, and a lot of it is very repetitive. There's not a lot of innovation, even if they have a majority, like a bunch of different products. They all are sort of similar once you open the package, and my product is very different. Most gluten-free cookies are about this big, and they're about the size of a quarter, and they're little hockey pucks. And my cookies are, where's my packaging, the size of your palm, and so it's a 2 to 2.5 inch cookie. It doesn't look like a dry hockey puck. It looks like a cookie. Like I've been told by people, I pretend I bake your cookies. I take them out of the bag, I put them on my plate, and I take them to dinner parties and pretend like I baked them. That's how specialty they look. So it's a very differentiated product. So I'm able to go in and talk and tell my story and explain about the flour, why they taste good, why they have a great mouthfeel, why they're different from my competitors. And also it looks and feels differentiated from a lot of what's already on the shelf. So that is sort of like my bigger hurdles, convincing them to take, a more established brand. Like in Europe, you have Char, make room, like take a SKU of Char off the shelf and put my cookie on there. That's my sort of hurdle now.
Yeah. And I think if you manage to, speaking of Europe and Char, like if you manage to came to Europe with this special recipe that you create for the flour, I think you'll be a huge success, because to be honest, I don't love any of their products. Like I'm kind of forced to bought them because they are kind of the only one that it's getting closer to the taste of real wheat flour. Yep. And it's a pity because it's a huge market here as well and all over the world. Like, and especially like I felt like you managed to go from that frustration that you had with the diagnostic and to find a solution, find something that real taste is back there for you, right? So I think you're the pure example of someone that got a frustration, find a solution, and went through experimentation and relentless to find a solution for it. And I think that should be all entrepreneurs out there, like all the people that face a problem in their day-to-day, and to find that solution, to create it for the world to use it. And I cannot thank you enough for that. And for those that are on the fence of, I know I have a problem. I know maybe there is a solution. What do you tell them in order to actually get there and build that solution?
Yeah, I would say that there's no one way. One of the things, like I went to business school and I went to Yale, and there's a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs because the stories we hear about are like, these big pharma or these two bros and they got together and they got all this funding and then they like disrupted the industry. And that's a lot to accomplish. And it's like being hit by lightning. Like it's very unlikely for that to happen to you. It's very hard. First of all, you have to have a network. Like I was fortunate that I went to Yale. So one of the reasons I was effective in crowdfunding was because I had the Yale community to reach out to and say, I'm doing this. And there's lots of investors within that community. And if you don't have that, crowdfunding may be very challenging for you. Just asking your friends and family and getting a few people to notice you on the platform is very, very hard. So I had some access and I had some relationships that I from my education that were very helpful to me. But if you don't have that, getting $5 million in funding or even 500K in funding becomes nearly impossible. But because I've been in wealth management and stockbroker, I can't tell you how many clients I have had that were worth over $100 million, which is more than money than you could spend in a lifetime. And they started by selling peaches on the side of the road. The economy was different. The world was different back then. We're talking about the boomers. So a lot of them are these wealthy boomers. And you just had to be alive back then, it feels like, to become a multimillionaire. But these are people who had reached like wealth status of like, I can't even spend how much money I have in a lifetime. And a lot of them started very small and identify like selling peaches on the side of the road. And now they're worth $150 million is a huge distance to go in a single lifetime. And so many of our clients didn't have these big, investments or private equity. They just identified a problem, started really small, got really good at it, were very smart and strategic, got private funding or partners to help them, then got bank loans to help them. Then they went and found investment bankers to go and fund them. So they went through this process. It takes 10 to 15 years, but ultimately, if they were passionate about what they were doing and they were good at what they were doing and they were solving the problem, then they were successful. And that was the strategy I took. I didn't want to do this whole big crash and burn. I didn't want a private equity or a VC fund immediately because I didn't know enough about the industry myself to be an expert. And at second you get VC funding, you lose a lot of control and power. And so I wanted to start small. I wanted to learn everything there was to learn about baking. I wanted to understand my industry. I wanted to know the ins and outs so that when I was ready for VC funding, I still had a lot of voice and power within the industry because VCs bring a lot of value and that's what they're there for. And I would be very lucky to have a VC partner, but I would have a lot of power because no VC is going to know more about gluten-free baking than me. They just won't. No matter how many times they've done it, like I know the soil content of every single state that grows rice in the U.S. and how that soil content and the minerals and vitamins and minerals impact the end product. Like I just know everything, and that was really important to me in how I ran my business. And so I would say there's no one way to do it. You can start by selling peaches on the side of the road. You can also start by getting a VC or angel investors. Both of those two things are totally legitimate. The most important thing is to start. Right? Had I not walked into that Whole Foods looking for feedback, none of this would have happened. And so many of my wins don't come from obvious things. They come from, just the serendipity of life and like, oh, I got into a Whole Foods. That started opening up doors because buyers go into these Whole Foods. And even though it's only in 10 locations, Whole Foods is such an important trend center that lots of buyers from smaller grocery stores go in there just to see what they're selling. And then they would contact me. So there's like all these little things that can happen just from, talking about your product, just from having a prototype, just from starting somewhere really small. And so you don't have to like give up your whole life to start a business that you think is good. You can start as a side hustle. You can have a prototype. You can be doing it on the weekends and it can turn into something really significant.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with entrepreneurship, right? Like often we approach it from the playbook
Right.
approach, but that doesn't work. Like you need to try things, you need to build things, you need to find solutions. And still, I would like to ask you something. Like, there is anything that you try or did in this journey that you won't repeat?
Yeah. I would say like so being an entrepreneur, so just so you know, because I love it and it's something I'm very passionate about. But being an entrepreneur, I tell people it's like being kicked in the teeth every single day. Like everything that
Yeah.
can go wrong does go wrong. Like I am not kidding. Like I've shipped things like order stuff and it comes, and then in the last 10 feet of it going from the truck to our warehouse, it got rained on and destroyed, right? And
Oh
it came
my.
all the way from China, right? Like everything, including the weather, will ruin your day when you're an entrepreneur. And you have to be able to deal with that. But early on, I spent a lot of money on marketing, and it was this big marketing agency that told me, like, and there's a referral from someone I really respected, and they were a waste of money, and I would never do that again. I wish I could get that money back. That's really the only thing I've ever done that I've like really regretted. Certainly, there's a lot of learning throughout this process. And you learn every single day, but most of those learnings are not like, um, oh, I should have never done that. It's learning is like, oh, I'm not in control of this situation. Therefore, I have to have a better risk management strategy. The things that you don't have control over, which is distribution, is the hardest part of CPG. And I can't control distribution, unfortunately. It's like I put my product onto someone else's truck, and then that truck takes it somewhere in the world and then somewhere else, and eventually ends up on your shelf. And I have no visibility into it. I have data, but all I see is like data. And so like you have bad experiences because you put faith in people, and then you realize, oh, I need better risk management. And so it's learning where those big risks are throughout the journey. And that's why I wanted to grow smaller, because I was like, I don't know what I don't know, and I want to take risks that I can recover from, which are smaller and bite-sized risks, until I get bigger and smarter, and then I can take bigger risks. And that's sort of how I've thought about growing and risk management and surviving sort of those unknown unknowns.
And speaking of that, like what's next for Mightylicious Gluten?
That's a great question. So we are expanding. I started with 3 cookies in 2018. We now have a line of 7 cookies. All of our products are gluten-free. We have 4 vegan gluten-free cookies now. And then last year we launched some baking mixes. So we have our flour blend is now available. So if you'd like to bake with our flour blend, you can order our gluten-free flour blend. Then we have a vegan gluten-free flour blend, because obviously whole milk powder is not vegan. So we use coconut milk powder in our vegan blend, which is also what we use in our vegan cookies. It's the exact product that I use to bake my cookies. And then we have a vegan and gluten-free brownie mix.
Nice.
We are currently working on. So those have been available since last year, but they are still very new. And this year we're working on a ready-to-eat brownie, because our brownie mix is done. So we had no idea the world so desperately needed a vegan gluten-free brownie mix.
Oh yeah.
I just needed their SKU, because retailers like to have something to choose from. So I was like, 2 is not enough. They usually want 3 or 4. So I was like, I already make a double chocolate cookie. I'll just make a brownie mix. It's basically the same ingredients. And the response to it has been so profound that I was like, the world really needs a ready-to-eat brownie. And so we're working on launching that ideally by 2027.
Nice. I love that journey. And I want to ask you when you're coming to Europe, or
I would love to come to Europe. It's hard enough to be successful in the US. And, I do get asked by distributors quite frequently about Europe and the Middle East. The problem is my cookies are sort of a fresher baked product, so I don't have quite the shelf life that's necessary. And unlike Char, I'm not manufactured in Europe. And I agree with you. I've lived in Europe 2 times now. And when I'm there, the only products I can eat are Char. And I really like Char. I think that it's a very good company, but it's so limiting. When you have an end cap at the end of the aisle that you can choose from. And that's all you, outside of fruits and vegetables and meat, it's that one end cap. And it's whatever that grocery store holds. And that is so limiting. I lived in Switzerland, and Switzerland is not it does not like to import anything, but they did import Char. And so it can be a huge challenge. So I totally empathize with what you're going through.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. And the reality is that luckily the whole food is real, and we as humans need to eat less processed food. But in the same time, we need certain processed food. And the work that you're doing with Mightylicious, I think, can build a foundation for other people to join in the movement and to build real healthy food rather than just, I don't know, something that has a shelf life of years and you just
Exactly.
look at the ingredients and like, holy shit, I
What is
cannot put
that?
that in my body. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's sort of like you have one or the other. And so there is this, one of my biggest hurdles is the shelf life because I'm making a all natural, better for you, gluten-free vegan product. And in the US, you need at least a 9-month shelf life. I'm like, well, my cookies start to go stale tomorrow, right? And so they don't. Like we have packaging, we have certain all natural ingredients to help with shelf life, but I'm never going to have the shelf life of an Oreo. An Oreo lives forever. Like,
Yeah, you wonder why.
yeah. So yeah, we're constantly innovating for that reason. Like I'm always trying new recipes and new ingredients. It's not to change the recipe; it's to improve the shelf life and the experience for the consumer.
And for those in US that want to try them, where they can find it, the cookies
Yeah, so
and the
you could order
products.
them directly from us. You can go to mightylicious.com. We ship all over the US, nowhere else at this point, I'm sorry, but we ship to all 50 states. If you order 3 bags or more, shipping is free. We're on Amazon.com. So if you would prefer to put us in your Prime box, please do that. We're also in retailers all over the US. We're in Walmart in the East Coast. We're in HEB in Texas. We're in Giant in Pennsylvania in the Mid Atlantic. We're in over 2,600 specialty and retail stores throughout the US. So you can find us at Bristol Farms, at Mother's, at Mom's, at Green Acres, all these. We're in Chicago, we're all over Texas, LA, Portland. You just have to go and find us. Unfortunately, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but if you don't see us, and this is very important, if you don't see us or any other product that you buy frequently online, mention it to your store manager. So these store managers often have a lot more power in decision making than you might think. Like I walked into the Whole Foods and suddenly was brought on to 3 stores just by talking to the guy behind the cake counter. No one would imagine the guy behind the cake counter has that level of authority, but they often do. And if they don't have the authority, they have a lot of influence because stores don't want to have to guess what you want to buy. They just want to give you what you're actually going to buy. And so if enough people walk into the store and say, hey, why aren't you carrying Mightylicious? They will carry Mightylicious. That information will eventually get back to someone who has the authority to bring it on if you're not already talking to that person. So always, regardless of what it is, whether it's Mightylicious or there's some sort of specialty sponge you like buying on Amazon, ask about it. That's always a good idea. And if you're not there, then buy us online. Go to mightylicious.com. You get the freshest product from me because we bake every month and it hasn't gone through the 9-month supply chain. So if you want the freshest baked cookies you can possibly get, order it from Mightylicious. We bake every single month and we're shipping out from our manufacturing facility directly to you.
Nice. And for anyone around listening, the links will be down below. Check out the website. And I'd like to conclude with a message from you to those that suffer from celiac disease or they are gluten intolerant. What do you tell them in less than 1 minute?
I would say that the challenge you're facing, if you're facing challenges like me, is with the quality of the food. And I want you to know that if you're trying to bake gluten-free or you're buying gluten-free products and they fall short, it's because the chemistry for gluten-free baking is different. So you need to get the right gluten-free flour blend. If you can find a really high quality gluten-free flour blend, and there are some in Europe because I've seen them, buy the ones that don't have sorghum flour and ancient grain. That's going to improve the taste of the product. And then find a really good niche gluten-free blogger that posts their recipes, because those are the recipes you're going to want to bake with. So your challenge as being someone who's gluten-free, loves food the same way I do, is going to be the research phase. Researching the ingredients and the products that really work, and then sourcing those, and then doing some research to find the innovators and the bakers who are recreating the gluten-free chemistry for you so that you can use those recipes to create a successful baked good. But it's out there, I promise.
Thank you. This was Carolyn Haeler on Authority in the Wild. And if this conversation made you think differently around gluten-free products and entrepreneurship, you know what to do. Subscribe to not miss the next one. Until next week, pura vida.